Hello everyone, it's Tony here. I'm going to give you a sort of a demo bit of a playthrough of my Rome Sweet Rome game. Now I'm sort of hemmed in by the tripod of my camera, but let's go. Okay, so these are the 5 tracks. Oh, by the way, Shostakovich is playing in the background, string quartets. So if it gets a little bit, het up, I'll have to go and turn him down a bit. But anyway, in the setup, I'm playing the solo game. I have my catacombs. So any buildings that get destroyed go into my catacombs. And whenever I get a building destroyed, I go up on the crypt track by 1 space. And whenever I go up on any of the tracks, it triggers the ability that's written there, if it actually does anything. Some of them are just kind of milestones. If you've just got an exclamation mark on the symbol, it means you can choose any... Shostakovich, I have to turn it down a bit. All right, mate, just, don't pull on the strings so hard, eh? You break them. Anyway, nobody wants a broken violin string. Okay. Yeah, so if you trigger the ability with the exclamation mark, then that means, and it's also on the cards to let you do that as well. Okay, you can see, oh dear, you can see, fucking hell. You can see that there. Right, anyway, that triggers, you choose any ability on the space you're on or backwards, but only if you're going upwards. So if I'm on this space here, put a building from your score pile into play. Now I don't have to do that, it's an optional thing, but normally you want to trigger the abilities as you're moving up tracks. You can only activate the ability on a track once per turn. So if you were to move up and then move up again, because of triggering an ability, you don't get to trigger that ability a second time in the same turn. Okay, so those are the tracks, and basically you're trying to get high up the track because the tracks give you lots of great benefits the further up you go, and then eventually give you Veeps, and the game ends as soon as 2 of the awards have been given out, so 2 of the top spaces that are reached. When a player reaches the top space, everyone else loses some stuff based on the track they've got to the top of, and that player can no longer gain or lose anything on that track. So basically any situation which said now you lose 3 points on your science track, you don't get to do that, and you can't do other things that involve losing science or whatever. Okay, so on your turn you play a card, and you either play a card for its major ability, which is the green bit, which is +2 of something, but you have to lose 1 of something else, or the minor ability. The major ability, you can only use it if you actually have something to lose on that right hand side. Okay, so if you're currently on 0 politics, then you can't actually play this card for the major ability because you've got no politics to lose. You have to have something to lose. Or you can use the minor ability, which is 1 of something, and then trigger an ability based on where you are on the track of something else. Okay, there are a couple of variations, but that's basically your choice. Then, just before the end of your turn, you can choose to build a building. And now every card, obviously, because I like multifunction cards, has got major, minor, but it's also got an ability as if it was a building. And this one's got 2 victory points. It's a military building, and it says your military buildings cannot be destroyed. Okay, that means I can't be targeted by effects that would involve killing my red buildings, my military buildings. So I could build a card as a building if I wanted to, and if I do, it goes into play. I pay the cost of that, which is based on where I am on the track. So at the moment I'm on space number 1 of the military track, and that means all my military buildings cost me 3 trowels, and a trowel is a discarded card. Okay, so it cost me 3 cards out of my hand to play a building at this point, but obviously the further I go up on that track, the cheaper my military buildings become, until ultimately on some of the tracks you can play a building free. You can only play 1 building per turn as well, so you can't sort of empty your entire hand with lots of buildings. So you can build if you want to, that's optional. If you do build, you take a card as well. Now in the solo game, once I've had my turn, which is play a card for major or minor, then maybe build, I turn over the next card, and then the major part of that card applies to the dummy player, if you like, the guy that's blue in this game. And that's all that he gets. If he can't lose something, then you can't get any bonuses. But he basically steadily climbs and climbs. He's also there. Steady on, guys. Oh dear, getting a bit panicked now, getting a bit excited. Basically, he just steadily climbs to the top. So he can get to the top, and in a couple of solo games, the blue guy has got to the top of the deck. Now, obviously what he's doing here is he's starting ahead of me on the track, so I can take things off him with certain abilities. But you want to make the game more difficult is you make him start a bit further ahead, which means he's harder to catch up or overtake. I've probably forgotten some stuff, but basically I'm going to carry on. Now in the solo game also there are 4 event cards which force a destruction of buildings. Now buildings destruction is good because you may lose it, but it goes into your catacombs, but every time that you lose a building it goes up on this track, the crypt track, which means pretty soon your buildings are still worth something. And then as you go further on, you can actually willfully start destroying your buildings and other people's buildings and getting more points for buildings in crypts. So in one of my solo games, I basically concentrated on trying to get up this track, and I ended up with 54 points solo, which I think is quite a good score actually. But there you go, we'll see. So let's play. So got my cards, the opening hand. So what I like to do at the start is just get some cards and build something. I used to be tempted to go up on a track. This one's quite nice though. This is just up 1 of each. And if I go up on 1 on my politics track, I get to draw a card. And if I go up 1 on my military track, I trigger the military ability, which means I could draw a card as well, because that's the only thing I can actually do within range of where I am. Or I could just trigger my politics ability twice, which would be to draw 2 cards. So it's the same thing either way I do it, but this actually gets me up on the track. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to up 1 on politics, which triggers, and I get to draw a card. And it also lets me go up 1 on military, which does that. And I can also draw a card. Now there are some spaces on these, and I'm going to bring one I haven't actually got up to yet. You can see there are little red bits on the spaces. As soon as you go through that space or land on that space, you have to lose that. It's again on the upward journey. If you go back down, you never trigger anything in the space. So if I went through this number 4 space, I'd actually have to lose a politics on my way up through technology. So I'm giving up a little bit of politics because I'm focusing on my tech. And obviously there are little bonuses elsewhere. For instance, on the culture track, you can actually get halfway along it and it stops you losing stuff as you go over boundaries. And in fact, if you go a bit further on, it actually starts helping you gain stuff when you go through the boundaries. So you want to try and balance up certain tracks. So there we go. I've just processed my first bit of turn with a couple of progressions, and now I want to build something. If I build a crypt building, it's going to cost me 3 other cards. So whenever I gain a crypt icon, which means whenever something dies, basically, I can draw a card. It's got quite a nice boost on it, though. It's got an either or on the bottom, which is quite nice. I think I'm going to keep that. I do actually want to be able to destroy my buildings. What else is this one? Whenever you lose 1 or more culture, draw a card. Well, that could be good, because I could sacrifice culture at certain points and then get cards. For my action, I can discard any 1 card to activate so I can actually just, if I don't have a card that activates an ability I want, I can use this to discard anything. I don't get the progression, but well, I've just gone up on. I could do that. I think I want some culture though, so I am going to build. I'm going to keep those 2 together. I don't want to discard any of them, actually. No, I'm not going to build at all. Now, my hand size is currently 4, as dictated by my position on that track. So initially, if I'm here, my hand size is 3. So I'm going to do nothing else. Draw a card for my imaginary opponent. He gets, I'll show it to you on the camera, he gets +2 light bulbs, but he loses 1 military. So he gets up on tech, but he loses on his military. Now, he doesn't trigger any of these abilities. He only ever loses things based on those particular red icons. So now it's my turn again. So this time I do like the culture track, so I'm actually going to go +2 on my culture but lose a military. So up 2 on the culture and I lose a military. Now I've landed on steal a culture, so I'm going to steal a culture from him. So I go up to there. I don't get to trigger this track again because I've already done it this turn with that one, but I do lose another military, so I'm down to, so I'm very much into my statues and so on. And I could build if I wanted to. My culture buildings cost me 2 cards. Well, this could be quite a nice time to get a bit of combo in. So I'm going to build that building, costing those 2 cards. It cost me 2 because that's where my position is on the culture track. It says 2 trowels. And because I built this turn, I draw a card. And that's my card for next time. And then the poet. So again, my opponent gets 2 light bulbs and loses a military. Well, he can lose a military, so that means he can do that, and he does go across 2, but he has to lose a politics because he crossed a little red divot. Now I can pretty much only do stuff. However, this is quite nice because I get to lose, although I like that. Set my military to 8. It's a nice big jump on military. And it's a politics building which currently costs me 3. So I could just pass my turn and draw a card, which is the kind of default don't want to do anything else action, because I quite like that big jump. So I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to pass and just draw a card. So then, now in the solo game I'm going to be playing through this deck. I've had 12 cards removed at random, which are over there. So I don't know which ones are out. There are 4 events in there, and I keep going until 2 of the achievements have been reached, until two top spaces are taken. So I could go through this deck more than once. A couple of games I have and a couple of games I haven't. So let's see how this one plays out. So this one, he's got a crypt building, which is really, they're always really nice. So this one gives him a big jump on that. So he loses a tech going through that, but he loses 2 military. Oh, that's brought him right down to there. So that means if he gets any loser military things from now on, he can't play at major ability. He just doesn't do anything because he can't. You have to be able to lose the thing that it's asking you to lose. So now it's my turn. I need to play something. Well, I still like that. I think what I could do is I'm going to gain 1 politics, draw 2 cards, keep 1. So I want something that's going to give me. That'll get me 2 cards basically if I use that, because my military is on 0 along with the opponent. And I might keep that one, so I'll discard that. And my second thing was to trigger my culture. Now my culture currently says trigger culture. So I can do anything. So basically I can do any one of these. I could draw a card or I could steal. If I draw a card, I could build something potentially. But actually I'm going to steal a culture from him, which moves me up. And whenever I move up, I trigger what's there. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to trigger that. And I can't trigger this line again. So it says steal that, but I've already triggered that one. So I can't do it again when I move. Okay, so that's not bad. That means my culture buildings are 2 now. But obviously I don't want to build anything because I can't really afford anything else. So I just don't build. So that's that. I didn't pass my turn, so I did something so I don't get another card. So in the forum, my opponent gets 2 military. So he's back off and running on military, but he loses a tech. Okay, that's cool. So now back to me again. Well, I could forfeit my ability to build crypt buildings. Whenever you go into the 0 space, you can't actually build anything of that building. You've got no influence in that particular attribute at all. So I could do that. It gives me a nice big jump, which lets me, 1, 2, 3, it'll let me draw 2 cards, which I think, or I could activate military twice, which would get me to draw 2 cards, but I get no progression. So actually I'm going to do that. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. I've gone through that, so I lose one of those. If I don't have them to lose, then it doesn't matter because it's a penalty for crossing a thing. And I draw 2 cards, but I also have to lose one of these because that was the other side of my silver smithy. Just the major ability. Okay. Right. Well, I'll play one more round, and then I think you've got the feel for it, really. So I could destroy a building. I could build something, actually, because I've just played my card. So green buildings costs me. So politics buildings cost me 2. Prison. I want to do that. So I'm going to discard those 2. Set my military to 8. That's a lovely jump. And I could steal a military from someone who's got fewer military than me. So I'm going to do that. But I've already triggered something on this track this turn, so I can't do it again, but I have jumped up. That's good, and I get a card for building. Palisade, that's quite a nice one. Basically, it sticks a special marker on the board, and I cannot, for any reason, go below that marker on that attribute then for the rest of the game. So this is for military. So I can end up paying cards a major ability that has the cost without actually having to lose that thing. So that's quite a nice one if I were to build that. Keeps my military protected, keeps me in a nice position. Go on, I'll give you one more turn. Oh, there you go, perfect timing. So So what am I doing? That's supposed to have done that. So I just got a bit draw happy. So there we go. +2 culture for the blue guy, but -1 on military. And then it's my turn. So obviously I'm going to move up 1. So I lose a tech, but I'm on 0, so I can't lose any more. And I get to trigger that, which is draw 2 cards. And I get to trigger my military. So I could steal 1. I can't because he hasn't got any. He can't lose anything. So there's no way of making him lose stuff, but I could draw a card because of that. And then I could build. Now I've drawn the card, which is to draw a replacement. Fire. Each player must destroy... Here we go, I'll put it up here. Each player must destroy a building worth 1 or less. And then... So I have to destroy my prison. It goes into my catacombs. Beautiful. And I get 1 of those, and then I trigger. So I could trigger this to gain 1, or I could get it to draw a card. I can build a purple building, so I'm actually going to do it that way. I'm going to gain that, so that's worth a point. So even though it's a point, now it's dead, it's still worth a point to me. And so I've got 3 cards. So I can build. I could build a garrison. Well, that one is my politics buildings can't be destroyed. Well, I don't want to do that because I want to be able to make use of them, perhaps. Whenever any player builds, no, the game doesn't actually build those, but I suppose that's 2 points, though, isn't it? So I suppose, go on, let's build it. 2 points, draw a card for building. And that's the end of my turn, and that's the way I go. That's Rome, Sweet Rome in the solo mode. Obviously, in the multiplayer mode, players are jiggery pokering. So initially, there's a bit of self-awareness. You've got a kind of sort of, solitaire sort of element, but then you've got to start seeing what other people are doing and see what they can do and start protecting yourself. And with destroying buildings, you have that jeopardy of destroying your own buildings, which could be good if they don't do anything else, like that one, which said set something and then it doesn't do it again, versus doing your opponent's buildings to deprive them of combos, but then, of course, you're giving them potentially points and abilities on the crypt track as the game progresses. So there you go. I'm just going to serve some lunch to the guys playing Shostakovich, and see you soon. Bye-bye.